Today on Artifactually Speaking, I'm looking at an ancient signature. I'm Brad Hafford, archaeologist at the University of Pennsylvania, and I'm here on location at the ancient city of Lagash in southern Iraq. Last time I talked about clay sealings, which were used to mark and control certain commodities. But what about the seals that actually made those sealings?
The first seals are in the form of stamps that were carved with designs on their base, and then impressions were made of those designs. By the time we get to the first cities, cylinder seals had really by and large replaced stamp seals, although I do have some stamp seals still in use. So cylinder seals are, as their name implies, cylindrical stones that are engraved with very different kinds of designs along their edge. And so when this design is impressed in a soft material, namely clay, it produces a positive of the negative that is engraved on the cylinder itself.
One seal can make many different sealings. So, we find a lot of sealings. They break them off, they're in trash a lot. Seals, though, when we do find them, they usually get all the glory because, well, they're very interesting objects. They preserve really well, too, because most of them are made of stone.
We have one example only from this season. It is a white limestone or calcite, probably, that is carved with a geometric design that belongs to a type that we call either the glazed steatite style or the quote-unquote Piedmont style, and that term designates its distribution across the Piedmont zones of Mesopotamia into Iran. This ladder pattern, and then usually there's other ladder patterns, zigzag, and then an animal or not, probably not.
Particular imagery would represent particular individuals. Sometimes they might represent a profession, and in some of these later seals, they're actually inscribed with cuneiform. So we know the name, and sometimes we know the profession of the particular person. They are like signatures because they are rolled against damp clay, and in the later periods, when we get them on tablets, it's very clear what they are, because they're usually on economic texts like loans, or on legal texts like court cases, things that needed to be witnessed. The earlier seals don't carry that sort of specific information. They have kinds of imagery that we can try to date and try to understand. So these early ones that are geometric, what do they really mean? What do they signify? And why did they choose this particular imagery? These are the kinds of questions that we've got to ask.
Seals themselves have many different functions. And in the early period, their primary function is to mark clay closing devices or tablets or other sorts of clay masses that were used to secure either the mouths of jars or fabric tied around jars or doors alternatively. And so whatever their meaning, it's a kind of administrative practice that is shared.
Seals were used before writing, and some of the imagery on seals may have influenced the symbols used later in writing.
But the designs are very important because they illustrate different aspects of life, and they are very important for us because they change over time and they change from region to region.
So seal imagery helps us to date particular things. In some periods, they preferred geometric designs. In others, they liked figural ones. And then in later ones, they sometimes had inscribed seals. By tracking the imagery, we can understand the date of an object. or at least to a general relative kind of date. Sometimes it's much more specific. We can see that in the Neolithic they preferred the stamp seal. Then they moved to the cylinder seal, and cylinder seals and stamps as well changed in their imagery through time.
I mean, we can date the seal, but it's hard to use the seal to date the context because seals get held on to for long periods of time.
I hope you enjoyed looking at this sign of authority with me, and I hope you'll join me next time on Artifactually Speaking.